Hello, my wonderful people, the Biafrans, home and abroad. Omunemu, ARU, MELU. I bump into this video. I don't know what I'm searching, and I went into one archive, as they used to call it, and I found this video. And I can tell you that the Britons have hidden this video from the surface so that the world will not know the true damage they caused to the Biafrans, so that the world will not know how they participated to make sure that the zoo eliminated the whole Biafran from the surface of the earth because of their selfish interest and because of the interest they have on the mineral resources that come from the Biafran land. Please, I beg of you, if you are too emotional, please do not watch this video because it will make you cry. Even I myself recording this video, my heart was bleeding when I bumped into this video. And I said, it is necessary we bring this video to the knowledge of our people and also possibly share it to the world that the Biafrans have been in existence even before the creation of the zoo. And in case of the so-called rivers, cross rivers, and Benin people who keep saying that they are not Biafrans, I want you to listen to this video. You will learn a lot from it. You will know that the so-called Benin kingdom that they are talking about, Biafrans have been there long ago, and they are the part of Biafrans before this nonsense divide and rule tactics that they use to divide brothers from their own brothers, all in the name of because of their political gains. Please watch this video, and I would like you to, when you get this video, share it, like it, comment on it, and make sure you keep subscribing to my channel for more and more interesting videos coming your way. They title this video Biafra and the Britons' Shame. It is called chapter 5 of it. But notwithstanding, this is the one I have just laid my hands on. I will go ahead to make research and found the rest of this video, and I'll bring it to my people, because these are the part of the history that they have deleted or they have excluded entirely from the curriculum of the people for the future Biafran not to question what really happened to their ancestors or to their fathers in the hands of the zoo and the Britain, including other Western allies who joined hands to make sure that they eliminated the Biafrans, not knowing that the Biafrans is not like ants on the earth. We are uncountable. When you eliminate one Biafra, the rest are sure that in the next 9 months, millions of Biafrans will emanate. How it happens, nobody gives account of it. So let us watch this video together. Listen, like, share, and make sure this video goes viral. It is for our own good, just to make sure we keep the record and history straight for our future generation. That's why I'm putting it into video. That's why I want to make at least my own children will be proud of me that I did this for them, so that you too can do that. Save this video and make sure you share it. You can as well save it in your USB for your future generation, so that you know where you are coming from, because he who don't know where started to beat him or her will never know where Darren stopped to beat him. Hashtag freedom or die. Hashtag Biafran Mass Exodus 2024. That is our aim, and it must surely come to pass. Let us go there.
Biafra, Britain's Shame. Chapter 5. The War in Biafra. The euphoria which greeted Biafra's declaration of independence throughout the entire young republic subsided very rapidly when Nigeria invaded on July 6, 1967. Federal troops advanced on Nsukka in the north and captured Bonny, the oil port in the south, within the first weeks of fighting. On the same day, Mr. George Thomas, then Minister of State in the Commonwealth Office, arrived in Lagos, and Mr. Walter Schwartz, the guidance correspondent, was arrested in Onitsha and taken to prison in Enugu, charged with illegal entry. Refugees from the Bonny area began to stream into Port Harcourt on their way north, and refugees from Nsukka, where in the days after its capture, all male Biafrans were said to have been executed, began to stream south towards Enugu. The refugees from the north, being preponderantly Igbos, settled in with cousins in Biafra, but many from the south, belonging to minority tribes, had to be accommodated in refugee camps which sprang up around Aba. Shell British Petroleum, still uncertain of the war's outcome, were persuaded to offer a token payment to the Biafran authorities, in response to which Nigeria blockaded oil exports from the east. Shell BP withdrew the offer and thereafter negotiated only with Lagos. On August 9th, Biafra counterattacked, invading the Midwest and capturing the oil town of Warri and the Midwestern capital of Benin. A Yoruba, Lieutenant Colonel Victor Banja, was appointed military administrator of what was later to declare itself the Republic of Benin. Biafran forces pushed west and were at one moment within 120 miles of Lagos when the lightning invasion began to run out of steam. Banja promoted himself to brigadier and declared that Benin was neutral in the war. He was replaced by Major Okonkwo and Igbo. Chief Awolowo, the Yoruba leader, declared from Ibadan that the Midwest sided with Lagos. Massacres of Easterners began in Ibadan. By September 20th, Biafran forces were in full retreat from the Midwest, taking with them some £2 million in Nigerian currency of the £12 million they found in the bank vaults in Benin. Soon afterwards, Nigeria changed its currency. August 9th was also the date on which the British government chose to confirm that it was permitting Nigeria to buy arms in Lagos, on the excuse that these were merely the tail end of existing contracts. Later, arms deliveries were explained away by the suggestion that to have withheld them would have been an unnatural act, in that it would have favored the Biafran side. At no stage was it admitted that arms were being sent from the British Army Strategic Reserve in Antwerp and Germany, and at no stage was Biafra permitted to buy arms from British firms. A week earlier, on August 2nd, Chief Anthony Anahoro had concluded an agreement in Moscow whereby the Nigerian Air Force was equipped with MiG fighters and Ilyushin bombers. On October 4th, it began to look as if the tide of war had turned with the news of the fall of Enugu. Western observers had tended to suppose that the loss of Biafran's capital would be followed by the collapse of Biafran resistance. But its effect was the opposite. Radio Biafra continued to broadcast as from Enugu, and all Biafran ministers continued to maintain the polite fiction that they were based there. Later, Nigerian propagandists used this as evidence that the Biafran people were deliberately kept in ignorance of Enugu's fall by the ruling elite, but anybody who had been inside Biafra for a minute knew the truth. Apart from anything else, the trickle of refugees now became a torrent, each refugee bearing news of a massacre in which he had lost many of his relations. And for the first time, food became a major problem. Refugee camps were kept supplied by the Biafran government in concert with voluntary agencies, but the plight of those in the villages began to give cause for alarm in April as the federal squeeze continued, and Port Harcourt, Biafra's last remaining outlet to the sea, came under fire from Colonel Benjamin Adekunle's 3rd Division. In April too, Nigeria started on a ruthless but not very systematic program of civilian bombing, having recruited enough Egyptian pilots to man the Ilyushin bombers. The Lagos government persisted in claiming that civilian casualties were accidental and unavoidable in warfare, but those at the receiving end in Biafra, including many reporters from the world press, observed that the Egyptian pilots concentrated exclusively on civilian targets, avoiding military ones for fear of anti-aircraft fire. The effect of these raids, whose cruel and indiscriminate results did much to antagonize world opinion, was to stifle Biafran resistance and to confirm the suspicion that Nigerian intentions were primarily genocidal. On May 19, 1968, Port Harcourt fell. Biafra was left with only one airstrip, Atuli, which was developed from a widened stretch of road in the bush. Soon this was to become the busiest airport in West Africa, with over 30 planes landing in a single night, loaded with stockfish, powdered milk, and medical equipment, as well as the occasional plane bringing arms, journalists, and Biafran diplomats. These planes ran the gauntlets of federal anti-aircraft fire as well as bombing raids on the airstrip. In the early days, however, landings were limited to about 3 a week from Caritas, the Catholic Relief Agency, and Christian Aid, the World Council of Churches, all other Caritas having been dissuaded by political pressure from sending anything to Biafra. On May 23, 1968, peace talks began in Kampala to break down after a week. Since these were held immediately after the fall of Port Harcourt, Nigerian attitudes were understandably harder. The next OAU meeting of the Consultative Committee at Niamey in the Niger Republic arranged for peace talks to be held in Addis Ababa a fortnight later, on August 4, 1968. But this also coincided with the beginning of a new federal drive, and discussion ended without ever-reaching agreement on the delivery of relief supplies, which may have been what the hawks in Nigeria intended. On August 14, 1968, federal troops began what was to be their final push into the Igbo heartland, capturing Aba on September 4th and extending their lines dangerously to seize Owerri, a vital communications center beyond. 60 old refugee camps around Aba were evacuated, and federal troops found the streets deserted. Shortly afterwards, the Nigerian garrison in Owerri was cut off by Biafran forces, and the push against Umuahia continued from the north. When Okigwe fell on September 30, 1968, and Onitsha had long fallen, cutting the Biafrans on the west bank of the Niger off from any road communication with Umuahia. Umuahia was not to fall until the end of March 1969, by which time the Nigerian position in Owerri was untenable. After a few days in Olo, General Ojukwu was able to enter Owerri in triumph to find the town in ruins after its occupation by Nigerian troops. However, the setback was strongly felt in Lagos, where General Gowon, newly married, Umuahia had been described as his wedding present, responded by sacking all 3 divisional commanders, including Colonel Adekunle, whose 3rd Marine Commando Division had suffered heavy casualties in the retreat from Owerri. In May 1969, the military balance tipped again in Biafra's favor with the arrival of 5 flight trainer airplanes brought by a Swede, Count Karl von Rosen, and equipped to fire rockets and machine guns. These might not be considered very potent against Nigeria's air force of some 20 jet warplanes, but strategic targets in Biafra were now very well dispersed, whereas Nigeria was far more vulnerable. Within days, the Biafrans were able to claim 11 Nigerian warplanes either partially or totally destroyed on the ground, and the main Nigerian power station at Ueli temporarily put out of action. However, an even more significant development from the political-economic point of view was the renewed Biafran military initiative in the Midwest. Here, as in Bonny and Port Harcourt, British and European oil firms had arrived behind the Nigerian army and started building installations with almost indecent haste. A £17.5 million oil pipeline was to stretch from Ueli and Warri across 60 miles of bush and swamp to Ogula on the Forcados estuary. An investment in Nigeria was planned at £53 million in 1969. In April 1969, a team of 29 Italian and German oil riggers employed by Ajib ventured into Igbo territory, the west bank of the Niger. 11 corpses were found, and 18 prisoners faced trial soon afterwards in Biafra for complicity in the crime of genocide. They were later released in response to appeals from the Pope and other world leaders. However, suddenly it dawned on the oil companies, of which Shell BP was far the biggest, that all their investment was at the mercy of Biafran guerrillas. and that these guerrillas could and would continue to operate long after the apparent defeat of Biafra. This had already happened on the west bank of the Niger, cut off from Biafra proper for 18 months, ever since Biafrans themselves destroyed the bridge at Onitsha. Almost overnight, there were signs that the oil lobby was beginning to be disenchanted with the quick kill theory, despite its acceptance at an earlier stage when everyone in the area knew that the implementation of quick kill would involve the slaughter of some 3 million Africans. Arms for Biafra continued to arrive from the Portuguese arms market in Lisbon via Sao Tome, and from Libreville in Gabon and Abidjan in the Ivory Coast. The extent to which these later two sources of supply originated in Paris was never known with much certainty. Paris had always denied it, but with perennial optimism, the British Foreign Office began to assert that the resignation of General de Gaulle would mean the end of arms supplies, and once again the collapse of Biafran resistance. However, the real strength of Biafra lay not in any arms, but in the unalterable will of the Biafran people to resist. Visitors there were amazed, not so much by the ferocious determination and ingenuity of Biafrans, that much was expected, as by their cheerfulness and pride. Begging had never been part of the Biafran culture. Even in the extremities of starvation, only the very old were allowed to beg without risking abuse from all sides. Even then, in the vital democracy of the village marketplace, an old person was only allowed to beg without being scolded and driven off by all present if his situation was thought to justify it. It was deeply mortifying for the Biafran people to find themselves largely dependent on relief agencies for their survival. Such help was only acceptable if it came as part of a friendly relationship from someone known and trusted, as it might be from a member of the family. There was nothing cold and clinical about the distribution of food. Nuns and relief workers were greeted as old friends as they gave out the pitifully small helping of Biafran's traditional protein source stockfish or dried cod. Children and mothers with incurably undernourished babies in their arms joined in, singing the story of Biafra's struggle in the few hours of daylight before Vandal time, when Nigerian jet planes swooped from the sky on any assembly of people spreading death and mutilation. Right throughout the times of greatest shortage, a free market was allowed to exist beside the carefully rationed handouts from the relief organizations and the government. Prices for such luxuries as meat were far too high for the pockets of any except a tiny minority, and the quantities of food available on the free market were always much too small to have made any difference to the overall nutritional scene if they had been otherwise distributed. A chicken in December 1968 cost 5 Biafran pounds, £5, 16 shillings, 80 sterling, or $14, and a young goat, 25. Salt was in the shortest supply of all. The existence of a free market prevented the growth of a black market, with all the unpatriotic undertones which that inevitably creates. It saved the vast and repressive government machinery which would have been needed to supervise a controlled market, and finally, it did wonders for the fiercely independent pride of the Biafrans. It is only when one sees Biafra in this context that one can begin to understand how Biafrans could never have accepted relief from the British government while it continued to supply arms to Nigeria, let alone from the Nigerians, even if they could have persuaded themselves that these offers were made in good faith. The British, in fact, made no such offer and were content to make propaganda out of the Biafran assertion that it would have been refused if it had been made. Perhaps the British government was also a little nervous that if made, it would be accepted. The European mind was reluctant to comprehend the willingness of an entire nation to starve rather than submit to injustice. 2 people burned themselves to death in a check manner as a protest against Western involvement on the Nigerian side, one in Paris, one outside the UN building in New York, but official circles dismissed them as mentally deranged, and they received very little publicity. A Belfast student who very nearly starved himself to death received none at all, comforting itself with reflections about mass hysteria or blatant untruth about a terrified people cowed into submission by the police-state methods of an unscrupulous elite. The official attitude of Britain, Russia, and the United States continued on its murderous course. Biafra is a beautiful country. Outside the dry season, it is characterized by a vivid greenness. Well-built metered roads drive straight through the bush, with paths leading off to the smaller villages and stone churches by the road every few miles. Coconut palms rise above the dark, dripping vegetation, providing food and drink for much of the year. During the war, all the open fields where yams and cassava grew were staked out with pointed stakes as a defense against parachutists, although Nigeria never acquired a major parachute capability. As the war dragged on, General Ojukwu launched his land army scheme, whereby every able-bodied Biafran worked in the fields, reclaiming cultivable land and planting the food necessary for survival. Biafra became the only independent African country where you saw high-ranking civil servants, judges of the High Court, senior officers of the armed forces working with their wives in the fields. The government supplied a seed where there was none in exchange for half of the crop with which to feed the army. This not only saved the food situation after December 1968, when total starvation from carbohydrate shortage seemed inevitable, the situation actually improved, but it also worked wonders for morale since it gave everybody something to do, which not only helped the community in its struggle for survival, but also helped the individual and his family. It was the cheerfulness which most visitors to Biafra found difficult to take. We had hardened ourselves to expect sight of starvation. Even so, it was not easy to sit with a mother and her small son of 2, trying to interest him in some sweets, and knowing that the child was going to die in the next few weeks. Knowing too that one's own government and people were deliberately encompassing his death in pursuance of a marginal and problematical interpretation of their own selfish interests. Children suffering from advanced stages of kwashiorkor or protein deficiency are listless, with puffy legs and distended bellies. Later, their legs become thin and shriveled, the skin peel off, their hair turn orange or fall out, and they die. They watch you, but their large round eyes are without much interest or curiosity. Only a saint could honestly claim that his first emotion was one of compassion rather than of horror, on seeing 1,000 such children patiently queuing with their mothers for the fortnight's cupful of powdered milk at Queen Elizabeth's Hospital, Umuahia. But only someone less than human could have seen the injured pride, the tenderness and the distress in their mother's eyes, and come away thinking that the reunification of Nigeria at such a price was anything but an obscenity. From massacres, from bombing, from constant uprooting of home and family, from a profound and unalterable conviction in the justice of their cause, there grew among the Biafran people a fatalistic acceptance of death, almost an indifference to it. Every new law served to strengthen their determination. It was not a rational position, and the callous, calculating mind in London and Washington could make nothing of it. The Biafrans, they decided, must be collectively insane. Yet all the time, Biafra was being run as an efficient modern state. Electric power stations, breweries, oil refinery plants were no sooner built than destroyed or captured, no sooner destroyed or captured than rebuilt. Unable to import anything except strategic necessities, the Biafrans relied upon their ingenuity and determination. With Nigerian forces only 4 miles away and shells falling on the outskirts of Umuahia, judges of the Biafran High Court, under Sir Louis Mbanefo, the Chief Justice, took off their red robes and powdered wigs and adjourned the hearing until 3 days later in Olu. There was very little thieving, but the tension of the time produced its crop of dangerous driving charges, crimes committed through drinks, and the occasional murder. A major function of the police force and judiciary, where crimes against property were concerned, was to protect the criminal from the wrath of his fellow citizens. Biafrans in general, and Igbos in particular, had never been noticeable for their unquestioning acceptance of authority, and every case had to be tried as thoroughly and with as much argumentation as in time of peace. Biafran women joined the army and the police force, tall, proud figures with their hair in catkins. Children played at soldiers or engaged passerby in abstruse discussion about various claims to legality put forward by the Lagos government. There was no catechism, no indoctrination. English journalists might have expected sour looks. Instead, we were asked to explain how it was that our government had to come to the conclusion that Biafra should be destroyed, why it was that the British people raised so little objection to this course of action, and what chance, if any, there was of Britain changing her attitude. I remember talking to a small boy of about 12 who had stopped our car at a village between Umuahia and Owerri. His legs and arms were stick-like, but he showed no other signs of malnutrition, and his mind was certainly unaffected. He had stopped us, he said, because he saw that we were from the world press and wanted to know what we thought about Biafra. When we told him that we were impressed, he smiled broadly and gave us mock salutes, breaking into the national anthem, Hail Biafra. He became serious when he was asked if he really thought that Biafra could ever win the war. I think Biafra will win, but it will take a very long time, he said, and smiled a little ruefully at his poor emaciated legs. And I think that many of the people will become like stockfish.
So, my great people of Biafra, and I don't hear the news, so this one is just the tip of iceberg, because I still keep on digging deep to find more interesting videos to teach our future generation of what our ancestors or our great-great-grandparents, what they passed through in the hands of the Zojuria and also in the hands of the so-called United Kingdom and other Western allies. My dear, they really dealt with us. Anyway, without not missing word, let me follow this rhetorics. All hail Biafra, and all must surely hail Biafra. For my Port Harcourt brothers and Ogoni people, and also Bonny, who said they are not Biafrans, they're gonna hear them now from the horse's mouth, because anyone where we talk now to you people, it is fake. We are trying to claim the land that does not belong to us. All the whole southeast, they are the 12 states of the eastern region, old eastern region. Not until they came with their divide and rule. Anyway, my people, make on I hear this important reactions. So where come from our Biafran brother. This one is at Johnny just come say this picture or this video is so sad and provoking. No sinner will go unpunished. Every one of them bloodthirsty morons that engaged in this blood hate of innocent Biafrans shall never know peace. Well, at our brother George Chidi talk say this means Biafra has been exist as a nation before creation of the zoo by the British enterprise. All must hail Biafra. Now waiting this our brother talk, and naturally the thing talk, naturally the thing be. Anyway, make we just end it here so that the video might not be too long. But I encourage you and urge each and every one of you who saw this video to make sure that this video goes viral, because some people might not get hold of this video, or some people might not know about this unless you share it to them. So let us continue to make this video to go viral, so that every Okeke and Okafu, even every Tom and Jerry, will be aware of what really happens, unlike the propaganda that they are propagating everywhere. Biafra never lose the war. Like, share, comment, and make sure you subscribe. Kemesiano.